So, if you're a parent of a young athlete and you're scared of messing up their college recruiting process, this video is for you. So, in this video, we're going to break down what coaches actually want, what things you should work on, what things you should be focusing on. And also, we've talked to several Division One coaches in soccer, baseball, football, basketball, and a lot of other sports. And we've been in recruiting meetings for several years and recruited, I don't know, hundreds of athletes and their families. So we know what we're talking about, right?
Yes, hello everybody. And why should you listen to us? Who are we? Majo's in the volleyball, beach volleyball world. I'm in the tennis world. We have both coached an NCAA National Championship team here at TCU. We have both competed for our countries. We have both coached at the highest level, whether it's Davis Cup coach or Olympians that Majo coached. We've also been on the private sector side. Majo had a club where she helped students in the recruiting process and their parents how to place them in different universities. I was in the academy world myself where we had our own players that were looking to go to college. So we've been in all different relationships in this whole recruiting process, whether it's on the receiving end. I played at college. I also was recruited. So that's we feel there's a lot that we can share, and hopefully you find this video very helpful.
Yes. And then, David is a Hall of Famer, three-time All-American, and coached like several, like ATP players like Cam Nori, Facundo Lugones, ATP Coach of the Year. So I think we've been around people to know actually what coaches are looking for, what coaches need athletes, what type of athletes they want in their programs. And it's not just about the level of talent, it's about behavior, it's about ownership, it's about mindset as well, right?
Correct. We're here to educate and to help you and to hopefully lower that anxiety level a little bit down and for you to enjoy it. I believe this is the best opportunity for your young son or daughter to start that ownership of their path, their future. And this whole recruiting process, in my opinion, is probably the biggest decision they have made or they will make up to this point in their lives. There are some exceptions out there if you move countries or you've been on your own at academies, possibly. But this is a great opportunity for you as a parent and your son or daughter to have those conversations, to dig in into who they are, what they want, what's a good fit, go through the pros and cons. You know what I'm talking about, that process where they start making some big decisions so that wherever they decide, wherever they end up, they can look back and learn from it because it was their process, it was their choice, with your support, with your assistance, not you taking over, but just assisting them and helping them in this whole process. It can be a lot of fun. It is stressful, just like competing is stressful. We'll talk about that. So
Yeah.
sit here and enjoy, and hopefully we answer a lot of your questions.
And please stay till the end because we're going to give you the 3 tips for you to navigate this process with a little bit less panic and to not hurt your relationship with your athlete. So we're going to talk about what recruiting is about. And actually, it's not just about level, like sending emails, going to camps, having a good ranking, UTR, True Volley, all this stuff, and highlights. What else is it about?
Yeah, I mean we're looking to build a relationship. It's a partnership. It's who do you want to, in lack of other words, who do you want to date? Who do you want to marry? This is someone, a family, and a player that's going to be part of your family forever, and you're going to be with them every single day. So we're looking at a lot of things about this player and making decisions based on other factors, not just the level. I will say the level is the results, and the level is the very first thing as to how you screen and you narrow down to a few players.
Yes. And sometimes, parents and families think that there can be a shortcut to recruiting or to the whole process. There is no shortcut. This is a long process. It can be stressful. There's a lot going on, but at the same time, it can be very exciting because it's a really cool transition that your athlete is going to have from going to juniors in high school to going to college. So what are coaches actually looking for? So just in this podcast, we've interviewed so many coaches, Division I coaches like football, baseball, basketball, soccer, tennis, beach volleyball, and high-level athletes too. And you can go and watch this episodes because we have so many good information. So they told us kind of what they look for, and we agree in a lot of stuff, right? What are some of the things that you look for?
Yeah, well, you're as a coach, you're paying attention to everything, and you're observing the family, the parents, the relationship between the player and the parents, the way they communicate, and then more specifically, even the way they show up on the court or on the competition field, resiliency. How do they deal with success? How do they deal with pressure, with failure? During competition and even over a period of 6 to 8 months, you get into injuries. You really get to know the families and the player, and it's not just the level. Obviously, the level, I keep saying, is the number one thing. But then after that, every coach wants a player that's resilient, a player that is gets along with others, that can relate to their teammates in the locker room. That's not all athletes are selfish, but that it's not something that's going to kill the culture of the team,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
We've all had those players, and I know, for example, in beach volleyball, can you think of times where you compete in doubles teams? So tell us about how that dynamic of their personalities would affect the overall team and maybe even that doubles team.
I think most important, you kind of have an idea of the team you're going to have each year, right? But at the same time, you don't know exactly because you're putting all these athletes together that they haven't been together. So you don't know if they're going to have a good chemistry on the court, if they're going to complement each other, this and that. So you want the athlete that actually is put me with whoever, coach. I'll play, I'll do whatever, instead of oh no, I play better with this particular athlete, I'm better with this, I don't want to play with this person, I don't want to play. So those are the ones that literally, we're busy, there's a lot of pressure on coaches, we're trying to figure out lineups, we're trying to win, we're trying to manage budgets, recruiting, NIL, all that kind of stuff. Believe me, we don't want an athlete that we have to baby or that we have to accommodate everything for them, even if they're the best player, right? And also a student athlete with the level, but without their reliability, it becomes a liability, right? That was your phrase, by the way.
Yeah, no, it is. And so, I think to simplify is we're looking at the character of the student athlete and the way they go about their business and what their goals are. There are different positions and roles that you have on a team. For example, in tennis, we have 10 spots. Not all 10 spots will play. Most likely only 8. And you're also looking for who can fill that 9th and 10th role and who has the right personality to be a leader in the locker room, but not on the tennis court, who's going to make their teammates better. Everybody knows. And we have an episode about the famous Luke Swan. We had a player that was by far, sorry, Luke, by far our worst player on the court just because he was actually probably our best athlete. He was our best athlete, just didn't play tennis enough growing up. And but he was our captain. He was our leader in many, many ways. He's probably the reason and the X factor that helped us win this national championship in 2024. And so in the recruiting process, you as a family will get into for you to think about what is the role, what is the best role for your son or daughter to be playing, and who do you believe is that best fit. But as far as the coach, we're looking at everything, and we're also looking at what, according to what role, what characteristics, and what skills they need to be able to be the best fit.
Yeah.
If you're the best player, if you're going to be the best player on the team and you're going to play number one, we're willing to. Coaches will put up with a few flaws, right?
Yes,
I mean, let's be honest. You're willing to put up more from your number one player to a certain point versus your number 10 player.
Correct.
Kind of like we know in the athletic department, a sport like beach volleyball and tennis, we're not playing number one in our athletic department. We're not driving the revenue into the universities. We are somewhere I like to believe tennis at TCU is like playing in the starting lineup, but more like 5 or 6. So I know as a coach what our athletic director and our chancellor wants from us. Wants us to get good grades, behave, go to class, represent the university in a class. Well, it's the same thing.
And don't cause any problem.
It's the same thing. So you as a parent gotta think about when you're going through this recruiting process, where does your son or daughter personality fit best? We have said no to some student athletes that were good enough to be in our top 10, but we knew they would be maybe number 8, 9, 10 for a year or two. And we passed on it because we knew they're too driven, too hungry, they want to be, they're better off. And we've told them, you're better off going to a different university where you're going to play a key role and be on the starting lineup on day one, or you're going to drive the coach crazy. You're not going to be happy. So we look for those things. And it's important that also as a parent that you know kind of where you're going to fit in and what are some qualities that the coach is looking for.
Yes. And we're going to dive into more about like fit because that's very important. But, like at the end of the day, like talking to all these coaches, and we meet with different coaches and high-level athletes on a regular basis. That's our circle. And if we name them as like accountability, coachability, right? Consistency, good communication, mindset under pressure, cultural fit, resilience, and for sure level.
Yeah, and trustworthy. We're getting into an age now in college tennis where NIL, transfer portal. So, for example, in tennis, if I see that this player has changed coaches 6 times in the last 3 years, he's had 6 different tennis coaches. Yeah, he's going to transfer. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
It's like you're dating a girl that had a boyfriend when you started dating her. Well, she's going to do the same to you. So trust whether and be able to rely on someone. We pay attention to that as well. So,
and I think like at the end of the day, coaches are looking for kids and athletes to spend every day with them because that's what we do. We spend every day with them for 4 years, sometimes more. So it's important.
Yeah, and you also are looking for a certain mix of personalities, a certain how do they all fit in with each other. There's been times where we've had players. There was a year specifically that we had a bunch of really nice guys on the tennis team. And we purposely were more interested in a recruit that was actually a little bit edgy. They had a little
Correct.
edge to it, especially in practice and in a competitive situations. We felt we needed somebody in our squad that could bring that and could make everybody uncomfortable on a daily basis for our nice guys to get used to being uncomfortable on a daily basis. And that's actually the year that we won the national championship. We had two players that were edgy, and they helped us
Yeah,
win the national
true.
championship. And you know, if you're listening, you know who you are.
Yeah.
And we needed that for this team to be able to win a national championship. So the point I'm making is that as a parent, don't get discouraged if you're like, wait, my son or daughter is better than that recruit. Maybe the coach was looking for something specifically, and you can ask the coach specifically a characteristic or quality
that year.
for that year that would fit into that squad and what the coach felt it needed.
So we're going to talk about some things that probably as parents you don't want to hear that much about, but parents' mistakes. And sometimes as coaches, we talk about red flags. And believe me, like we do talk between programs, even if we're rivals, about how, parents behave, and also with club coaches or, strength coaches, high school coaches, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to tell you some, real life examples, and also, how to manage it, not overmanage it, and make sure that your athlete takes ownership, right?
Yeah, the first one that comes to my mind is just a helicopter parent, the one that is doing all the talking in the recruiting process. You hardly ever get to talk to the player. And I know some of them are really young. They are. And I would divide this part into two. When, as coaches, when we talk about whether it's the scholarship or the NIL, sort of the finances, the business side of things, I understand, and we understand as coaches that that's a more appropriate conversation with the parents. It would be amazing if the kid, the player, the athlete would do that as well. But the expectations are different. But when it comes to who they are and what their goals are and what they're looking for in a program, what are their dreams, we want to hear from the athletes.
100%.
Remember, Majo, we had a top recruit, and we're sitting there, and I asked the player, what is your biggest motivator? What do you love the most? Why do you play tennis? Why do you play tennis? I can't think of a more personal question. And I was staring right at him, and I wanted to hear that sort of that passion from him, because the parents were just talking the whole time. And did dad answer the question? Did dad answer what his son's whole purpose of playing tennis was? And to me, at that moment, I realized, okay, yeah, this is not, for me, this is not going to work.
Yes. And I think another thing that is important is like, and you can see it, the apple doesn't fall far away from the tree. That's the saying.
Correct.
Yeah. That if you have parents and you're communicating with them and visits and phone calls, all that stuff, and it's all about them and what their kid is going to get, you say like, okay, like we really love to have kids in families that are also like, what can we bring to the program? How can we make this program better? Yes, you're going to get a lot from it. You're going to get a lot from us. But at the same time, that service, and I think like Kirk Sarlos like made a big point about that, right? About, how they serve on the team. Matt in another episode talked about the same thing. And yes, you want athletes that want to come here. I want to make this program better. When I leave, I want to make this program better. And sometimes we see it in the parents that there's just like, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get? Right? And it's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but are some things that when you have 2-3 athletes competing for one spot, that's what happens all the time. Who are you going to take?
Yeah, it's we'll keep going back to the real situation for coaches again and players to know where their level is, and yes, if you're the number one recruit in the world, you can probably ask for the moon and somebody will give it to you. So, but most people are not. Actually, only one is the number one recruit in the world, and then there is two in the top two. Um, my point is that you gotta kind of know what sort of cards you're dealt with in this whole negotiation and what it is that you're looking for. It is a negotiation, but hopefully it becomes more of a conversation and more of a relationship.
A partnership.
And if I was gonna make an example for you parents, is that yeah, in the beginning process, you talk to the student athlete, you have those initial conversations, and you may have a separate conversation with the parent on a different day. You may have some conversations with both at the same time. But as the process moves on, you hear less and less from the parents, and those conversations are at one point all with the student athlete, especially as they get more into their senior year and junior year, unless, like I said earlier, unless you're getting down to the nitty gritty of the NIL situation or the finance, the money part, the business part, the transactional part of this whole process, which none of us like. I'm sure parents don't like it either. It's so that's understandable why you would have that with the adult.
Yeah, and think about, like, we know that most of the time this is your first time going through this. So it's hard, it's confusing, it's stressful, it's scary, right? Because it's a big decision and for sure you want the best for your kid. So we know that and we want to walk through it with you, right? Like, right now I'm not coaching at college anymore, but at the Grow Performance, my business, we do work with parents on walking through that process and making sure that we are equipping athletes on those skills and those communication and that ownership that they actually can show up with confidence, like as who they are in this recruiting process. So the coaches know exactly what they're getting. And then the athletes are not scared in the middle that they need to perform and it's exhausting. And then they get to the school and then it's completely different, right?
Yeah, a perfect example is when the coach, let's say you're on a recruiting visit and the coach is asking the young athlete questions, let them answer the question. Don't answer it for them.
Yeah.
Let them, even though you, as parent, I'm a parent of two as well, and gone through interview process at schools or whatever, and it's tempting. You want to say the right thing, you know what the right thing to say, but at the same time, what you want to do in this process is you want to be real, because if you end up in that program, in that school, you want it to work out. So there's, you got to ask yourself, what's the goal? Is it to get recruited and get a scholarship and go somewhere so that you get your scholarship and you got recruited and you can tell your friends? Or are you looking for the best fit? We're big believers that you're looking for the best fit. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk that in more in depth about not just going for the logo, and we all have pride and we want to tell, but you're looking for the best fit. So in the recruiting process, as a parent, you wanna be yourself. You want to be real. Be who you are. Watch yourself so you don't scare the coach, and allow the player to also be themselves. So if it works out, it was based on true information. It's kind of like dating. If we date, and if in the beginning you appear to be someone you're not,
Yeah.
then,
like letting you win when we play board games and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right. You never let me win anything, but that's okay. I know that,
Yeah.
so I know what it was. We just stopped playing against each other. But then our relationship it's going to work out. It's going to last because it was based on honest behavior.
Genuine.
And not pretending, because you can't pretend forever. And so I will say this now is that it's hard to get it perfect. There is a positive about the transfer portal,
Yes.
that this
I
is
agree.
an important decision and you want to get it right from the beginning. But if you don't, it's never been easier to transfer, and they might be a better fit. I do see a lot of I'll wait for the next topic.
Another thing that we were going to talk about is athlete ownership, and we're talking about it already, how to communicate, follow through, handle discomfort. So what David was saying about when we as coaches ask the athletes questions and they don't respond right away, they're processing, they're uncomfortable, that's amazing. Let them sit in discomfort and let them figure out what to respond. You guys, you don't have to jump into every single thing when the athlete is a little bit discomfort and you feel that he or she's failing, right? Or she's not answering the right questions, or she's not performing well, or whatever. Let them sit in discomfort, let them figure out stuff, and really support them and have the belief in them that they can do hard things, because sports and college athletics is not easy. It's hard. So the more you put them in that position that they have to figure out things, the more ownership they're going to have, the more prepared they're going to be. And two, they're on the court and they're going to fight because they know they can go through it.
Yes, a typical example of that is when a parent is talking about their son's or daughter's results, and they keep saying, we won, or we lost, or we had a tough match. And I want to say, there's no we. There's no we. It's a singles match. In tennis, in other sports, you might be referring we, you might think the team, but the parents are careful that it is about the student athlete, and not just in the recruiting process. This is when I was listening to Majo right now, I can hear the mental performance coach coming out on her, but it is the healthiest way for them to take on this path that they know it is their path, it is their passion, it is their dream, their journey, and the parents, like it or not, you're just there paying the bills and supporting them along the way, and always checking yourself as to how you're showing up with your clients. So there's the recruiting side of that, but also as coaches, it's hard for us not to tell you that also on the performance side and on the health part and your relationship with your student athlete, how much better it's going to be the more you allow them to go through the process without being unsupportive or too removed or unattached from it. If it's important to them, they want it to be important to you as well. So
yes, and I've worked with different athletes, like right now outside of college athletics, and their parents. Like I meet with the parents, and they say what they see, where they want to see their kids in the future, what's the biggest challenge, where they're struggling with, and same with the athlete, right? And then when actually the parent steps out and they trust on the support system that they put together for the kid, like coaches, mental coach, physio, there's a lot of stuff, right? Like strength coaches or club coaches or all this different people that are around them, and they trust the process. They're telling their kid without saying it out loud, I believe in you, I trust you. I trust that you can make a decision. And that empowers the athlete so much, and they start making their own decisions, and they start believing that they can make big decisions. And that decision, the college where they're going to go, as you said, is the most important decision in their life at that point. Yeah. And probably one of the most important decisions in their lives, right?
Yes, you want it to be their decision. So let's talk about looking for the right fit.
Yes.
And not go for what's sexy when you make the announcement. Mm-hmm. And it's all these days about that social media post, and you tell everybody, oh, I'm going to whatever, this really fancy, I don't want to give any schools any a shout out. So we all know all the big name schools that it looks great on a social media.
Like your school looks great,
Well,
National champions, how many times, like top 10?
Absolutely, in all the sports, but
yeah,
you get my point. So So, because if there's one situation that we see constantly in the transfer portal is a kid that fell for the sexiness of their announcement, and a year later or 2 years later they've been on the bench and they're transferring out. So just know your level and look for the right fit, look for the right values that you have as a family, that it's also the same values that they have in that program. And regardless of how amazing or not would look like in the social media. I remember when I was making my choice, I was in Southern California, and TCU was not known nationally like it is today. Back in 1991, when I was going through the process, TCU was more of a regional Southern Texas smaller private school that not everybody knew in California. Now it's probably one of the most popular schools in California. But I remember feeling like my peers in high school at San Clemente High School were kind of disappointed that I would go to TCU, and yet TCU was number 2 in the nation, and they were top 5 in tennis, but they didn't have the big sexy name, and so I had to. Luckily, I was mature enough to get over that, and I thought it was the right fit, and here I am. Awesome. Whatever, 35 years later, obviously it was the best decision, but I did have to overcome that to find the right fit. So what are some things that you need to consider to look for the right fit, in your opinion?
I think there's a lot of research behind it, right? Kind of like understand your level, understand what role are you going to play in each team each school that you're visiting, each school that you're talking with. Like we like to talk about what's your target school, what's your reach school, what is your safety school, right? And you have to write the cons and the pros of every single one of them to understand what is going to be your role there, and also be open that whole program can transform from when you're recruited as a junior to when you get there as a freshman, right? Because for example, we were not ranked, I don't know, 7 years ago, and then we won a national title 7 years after, and you say yes, some girls were man, when I committed to this school, we were not as good, and I thought I was going to play, and they end up not playing at all. And that's part of it. That's part of athletics. It's one of the risks that you're taking. So think about the fit. Is it a school that you like? Your major is there, right? You like the proximity, or you went far away from home, or whatever, the weather. How are you going to be in that environment without your sport as well? I think it's very important.
Yeah, so you're looking at the academic fit. Mm-hmm. You're looking at your level versus the school level. Mm-hmm. You're looking at get to know the players and sort of the culture. What is that school? What is that program sort of known for? Mm-hmm. Do some research. Talk to some alumni. I've always encouraged our recruits to call players that have graduated from any program that are 2, 3, 4 years removed, so they still know the coach. It hasn't been ages ago, but you're going to get a more honest opinion about the program. Correct. Than you will from a current athlete. If you're going to visit or you talk to the current players, it's almost like they feel like they have to say all great things about their program. But someone who graduated, they're older, more mature, and they just want to help. We all love helping people. So you're gonna be slightly more honest. I encourage student athletes to demand and say, tell me Coach Rodita's biggest weaknesses. What is he like on a bad day? What is he like on a great day? What are his strengths? What is he just on average? But tell me the bad. Yeah. Tell me the bad and the ugly. What are his biggest weaknesses as a coach or as a person, so that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into.
Yes, and trust, as parents too, that you have, you you have values and standards that pass on to your athlete, and they are looking for those values and standards in other programs. And one thing that we talked about, I think it was like Doug Meacham's episode, and I was talking to him also when we were watching you guys play Utah last weekend, is like, yes, go to that school where you're going to develop. And maybe after you get to transfer to a bigger school, like what Combe did, right? Or so you think about like, go there, play, develop, because everybody loves the logo until they sit in the bench.
And you might be okay with the bench.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I
you
mean,
might.
Luke Swan was ecstatic.
So that's why. No,
in a way.
You,
I mean, I could ask Luke, but he knew his role. But, it comes down to what is it? Are you looking to continue to develop? Mm-hmm. If you're going to, I'll say this to development. If you want to develop, you want to play. You're not developing. You're going to develop a lot faster on a lower team by competing and being on the starting lineup than you will on the bench on a better team, even though you're getting to practice every day with those players. I'm a firm believer that you will develop faster. Is it the academic? Another way to say, I've heard coaches say this, is go to the school where if you didn't play the sport, you would be perfectly happy. Mm-hmm. Don't go to a school just because of the sport, that you hate the weather, you hate the location, you don't fit in, whatever, with mm-hmm. the normal student body, because you're putting too much pressure on that sport to carry your happiness. So, know the fit, do your research, and find the right fit, not the sexy announcement.
Okay, we're going to talk about something really important that sometimes gets overlooked. It does, but it doesn't. It's mindset and how to handle pressure. Like a skill, right? Like you treat it as skill. You need to practice. You get it. You have to do it over and over until it becomes a habit. What do we evaluate? We evaluate how do they respond after mistakes. If they can reset fast, not how many mistakes they make, but how fast they can reset and bounce back and focus on the next job or what they can control. Also, the consistency, right? Can they do it over and over and over again? And what you talked about too, the relationship between failure and success. How do they act after they win? How do they act after they lose? What things... we watch what happens after a bad day. We watch what happens after a good day.
Yeah, and when you're evaluating, we're talking about the recruiting process. When you're evaluating, you're also looking for that growth and that development. We love it as coaches, obviously, when you see a kid, let's say in January, you see a recruit and you evaluate them and you see where they're at. And then you see them in April, you're like, wow, we talked about that. Something that they've been working on, let's say, is the mental side, the body language, how they respond. And I see a difference in April. And obviously there's development. You're not going to get, if you're going to get the perfect player that they have everything they want, they're probably not going to college and they're ready for professional. So we know that there is a development, but you want to see that development from in the recruiting process, to where as you're getting to know each other, you're seeing results, you're seeing this path. I remember perfectly with Rafael Hodar in tennis. We were talking to Rafa before anybody was, and I think Harvard was talking to him, and he wasn't that good, but you could see it coming, and every time he played, he would just get better and better. And we even offered, when he was 200 ITF, which in our world is not somebody you would offer a full scholarship. And this weekend he just won an ATP event, and you could see that. But you could see that in the recruiting 100%. Process, how there was a growth and a development in not just on the mental side, but also on the technical and tactical.
And you need that consistency, right? Like you need like those players, as you said, like him, and I can say like Tanya Moreno, maybe like not the most physical athlete, but very consistent. You know, when you have kids that are going through roller coasters all the time, you're like, okay, who's going to show up today, right? Do I put them in? Do I don't? Like, how was last match? But maybe like this match, they show up as outstanding, which is great, but also like we don't like that much, like many surprises, mostly bad surprises. So that consistency is very important, and we see it in habits, you know, like we can see like does the athlete have like the rituals that they do, you know, when, you know, they're serving or between points, that kind of stuff. It's very important. That's their mindset game, because pressure is going to be there. Pressure is not going to go away. And you have to take pressure as a challenge, and who really gets, yes, nervous, but at the same time excited to be in the spotlight. We want dogs too, right?
Yeah, we at the end of the day, we want good competitors. So we're paying attention to that, how good of a competitor they are, and how they show up in a competitive mental setting.
Correct. Okay, we're going to move to a big one that is, you know, common now, not when we were playing, but it's social media. And social media, use it as a support tool, right? Sometimes it's used too much as comparisons, as, you know, like it freaks them out, or where they're at, they're comparing each other every single day to every single player in the whole world. And that is pretty stressful. And also use it to promote yourself as an athlete, right? Use it to put your highlight reels, to show your process, share updates for the coaches to know a little bit more about your personality, that kind of stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, from a recruiting perspective, just know that coaches are paying attention to your social media. I've heard you maybe advise student athletes to have a separate account where it's just all about recruiting.
Yeah, sometimes that's good, right? If they want to have like their most social account with their friends and stuff, that's totally fine. As long as you have to know nowadays that everything can reach out, like, you know, like we as coaches can see a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm recruiting a player and I see at 16 years old, you know, there may be a picture where he's in a social setting and there's a beer or alcohol, yeah, that's going to freak me out. Or cigarettes or whatever, you know, a vape or whatever they do these days. Yeah, at 17, 18, that freaks me out. That's not, I can only imagine. So we know that once you get to college, you're on your own. We're not there 24/7.
No.
We
don't want to be there 24/7.
We're not tucking you into bed. We trust you that you're going to make good decisions. And if your social media is sending a message of this wild man or wild woman, very social, that's going to scare most coaches away. And I'm sure on the women's side,
super scary.
Same thing. So just be aware. Use it as a tool, like Majo just said, and promote yourself. But it is part of every athlete's life now. Yeah. It's very normal, and use it to your advantage.
Yeah. And understand that you're building your brand. You know, with NIL and everything, make yourself, you know, marketable. Make yourself, you know, show up, be a role model, so you can have better NIL deals and stuff like that. If you used your social media to post like things that are not that, I don't know, respectable.
Yeah, well, there's a balance, right? I mean, I remember following this top recruit, and man, he was just so full of himself in social media. I mean, every picture was like, I am the greatest, I am the man, I'm amazing. It was a turnoff. Yeah. And we moved on, and evaluating 4 years later, I'm looking, that player's, I haven't heard from that player. He was more into the hype than he was about getting being a dog and working on their game. And it was all about the social media. So be careful with that as well. We're going to give 3 basic tips in this whole recruiting process for the parents. What's number 1?
I think define the fit before chasing the status. You know, like what we talked about knowing your level, right? Where you're going to develop, what are you looking for exactly in a program, and what's your role going to be in that specific program. Understand and do your research.
Yeah, ask the questions. Don't just fall for the name. Not just your level, but the school's level. And what is it that you want, and and who you are. I mean, this is a great time for parents and athletes, young athletes, to have those private conversations where the parents are guiding. What do you think? Would you be happy on the bench? Would you be happy as being the number one player with all the expectations and pressure on day one?
Yeah.
What's that balance? What would you prefer, and making decisions according to that. Also, obviously the academic is huge, right? The academic fit. You all have different. Know what you're getting yourself. Either way, where you're always been going to a great high school and you're very high academic, you don't want to drop too much, and vice versa. You don't want to put yourself in a situation in a school where you're constantly under pressure academically. So do your research and again, define what your goal is. Is it just you just want a scholarship, or you want to be happy when you get there? And is it about development, or is it about academics? Prioritize what this decision is going to be based on, and what's important, not just family, but more importantly, what's more important, the priority for the student athlete.
Yes. And then tip number 2, let the athlete own more the process. Make sure that, yes, you're part of it. We're recruiting the athlete. We're not recruiting you, but at the same time, we're recruiting you as a parent too, how much you're involved. And it is important to understand that when you organize everything for your athlete, it may look really organized and cool, but then when they get to college, it unmasks really quickly. So
yeah, you got to be true to who you are. You don't want to pretend to be somebody else that you're not. So that's why it's important for the athlete to know that it's their journey, their choice, their school. And so if things go well, they know they made that choice. But if things don't go well, it was their choice as well, and they can learn from that. Yeah. That's great. Again, this is a great opportunity for the young student athlete to learn about life and make some choices, and learn to trust their decision in this whole process.
Yeah, just own it. Let them do it. Believe in them. They know what they want, I think.
And what about number 3?
Number 3 is protect their relationship while building standards. Protect your relationship with your kid, with your athlete. So that is important, right? It's not, yes, it also is a little bit what you want, but it's mostly what they want. How much you're supporting them, how are you supporting them, how are you showing up for them, and making sure that you're, pricing the effort, praising the good decisions, that kind of stuff, instead of just praising results.
Yeah, this is also a good opportunity for you parents to do some self-reflection and this is a great opportunity to let go if you are one of those helicopter parents, be able to let go if opposite. If you've been very removed and completely disengaged from the sport, this is a good opportunity to show support. And your son or daughter better than anybody, and what those questions are in private with your son or daughter that you can ask to make them really think about what it is they want. So we pay attention to parents. At the end of the day, we rely on parents. Nobody knows the student athlete better than parents. They're a great resource for us. We just simply wanna let you know that we're watching you and we're observing you as a parent.
Mm-hmm. And stay calm, right? I know it's nerve-wracking, it's stressful, but stay calm during the process. Let them believe that you believe in them. I think that's very important. And you don't need a perfect plan, you just need one. And I hope these tips help you. Remember, define the fit before chasing the status. Let the athlete own the process, and also protect the relationship. I think this is what we have for you. And if you like it, if you think it's helpful, please share it with another parent that is going through the same process. Subscribe, share, like, and please put there in the comments what would you like to hear from us. What other advice, what other things about recruiting, about performance, about whatever. We're here for you, and we're more happy to do something like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're doing this. And just know that that we've talked to Division I soccer coaches, baseball coaches, basketball coaches, football coaches, professional athletes, coaches of professional athletes, parents of professional current athletes, Olympians. They're all out there. Those episodes are all there. And if you can go and search for them, and hopefully you can get some more information and enjoy the process.
Yes. Like, share, and subscribe. And from the court
to the
sand, this is D1 Coach's Pod. See you in the next set.